my comfort should be first and foremost. And so if I feel like I need that extra behind my neck, I should do it. It didn't record, but maybe it's worthwhile to say that our comfort has to be first and foremost. Holy cannoli, is it that many characters over? Okay. I'm just going to put this, whoops, also in the chat area, just so that there's some, no, I'm going to say that, but it's kind of the truth. But also just in case it wasn't noticed in the description. I'm going to try to. And I had one extra letter. So I'll put it there. Wow, I did not know. I still have 123 too many characters. Because it can only be a certain length. And now there's some extra. Now the space is the extra character. Okay, there we go. And it was 3 rapid, but it's my channel, so I can do it. Actually, no, I do want that there. And that other video is closer to where I want it to be. And I know he didn't say 11. I know in one of my videos I was alluding to, but he might check and say, are you still alive or is it live again? But I know that you said noon. I know I was kind of alluding in the one video, but also whether he knows I just did the 1 or 2, he might think even though I'm energetic, maybe I want a bit of rest. Let's stick with 12. So I've got an hour and a half. Even if I do this for an hour, then I'll still have a half hour between things. I might have a later lunch, but at the moment, actually, what I'm going to be having is garlic, chicken, olive, pizza. Kind of unique, but I made it on the weekend. I have some left over, so as someone who doesn't usually like a couple of those things in the home, said it looked good. I'm kind of curious. So now the dog's laying over the window. He hasn't very often. It's funny. There was a small piece of cheese. It was on the counter from the other night, and I noticed it, and it'd been on the floor, and I was surprised the dog hadn't gotten it yet. But I guess we hadn't been in the kitchen super long this morning because we often aren't. Well, kind of. And I pre-made the coffee, this and that. And so I walked over and I put it in his mouth and said, "Eat it. I know you'll like it, even if it's dried up." There's that other one. There. Ah, the sun's out a little bit. And that's part of, whoa, I was like, whoa, I got 3 comments. Oh, yeah, never mind. That's part of the inspiration that I said that this is meant to be, and so are you. I'm just trying to decide if I want to be propped up on a cushion as much as I am or not really. And I'm thinking maybe not really at the moment. Sometimes I feel the need, sometimes I don't. But here, there's rain in the air. It's likely going to rain. And there, I just did that thing that I said was a bit of a pet peeve in the previous video. I said the same thing twice, but in a different way. And again, it's a small thing. We shouldn't be too hard on ourselves for it. But I guess when I hear other people do it, I sometimes think, sorry. Okay, now, so I sometimes think, was it necessary though? I didn't think so. And maybe it isn't, but whatever. Anywho, and part of me feels, I think I was briefly on the front deck, yeah, which is rare for a weekday. Part of me feels, but I'd rather step and just even if it's kind of quiet out there. And I can't believe I didn't notice this because this was the rest of the thing we got rid of the other day. That was, I guess it must have been wrapped in a blanket or something. I don't do these outside though because one, even though this is YouTube, it's specifically on this channel, and I don't know. I just don't need to kind of connect things to. I don't. Yeah. I'd rather have privacy, no distraction, you know, and just yeah. Also, the connectivity isn't as great out there. And so that's kind of why I say this is meant to be. It's the 3rd podcast I've done. I kind of want to be out there before the potential rain comes. The other thing I just said, and yet here I am. And Part about feeling extra motivational, I'm not necessarily always trying to be, but it just kind of happens. It just kind of happens that, you know, I'm trying to, put my best foot forward and put good content out there and be meaningful and learn in the process. And but I was watching someone else that I follow. I don't see her stuff as often on here, but I do sometimes. And then of course it showed me one today, and because I clicked it, then it showed me another one. And I watched and mostly processed the one, and then the other one not quite yet. There was a very interesting comment under the one. It was very interesting. Not it. That's her, but that's not it. Um, just looking at it again to see if I might want to read it. Oh, I get what they're saying, and I can't believe I didn't get this the first time. Grind your heart and fear. Check. Shower completely. Check. Nothing's completely, but it can be close. Lose all hope. Nothing's all. Check. Build strength. Check. Courage rising in process. Anyway, it was just listening to her talk, especially in that video for some reason, although possibly a little bit anytime I ever have. And it's like, hmm. I think it was just because I don't know what I can't think back, but she's just so kind and encouraging, and in some ways very, very, for lack of a different way to put it, basic in a deep way. Like she can be very condensed. She's just it just kind of expresses what seemingly so easily from her, and yet it's very deep. And I do this, and I do it somewhat naturally, where I try to speak specifically. I'm talking to people, and most of them are strangers, and so we say some things, and we don't know the other person's story. It's true, unless they share it. Uh, that reminds me of a song. Maybe I should do it, although I don't really want to associate it with it. But and it's interesting because I found somebody else with her kind of unique name, and actually I sang a song with it in the song just the other day, um, but didn't look like her unless it was much younger and her hair was longer and darker, and it was kind of I think it was a black and white actually, but still, if black and white would still show somebody with blonde hair lighter than it looked. Um, hmm. It's been a while since I've heard the song. Not super long, but a number of months, a few months, and I'm not sure if I'd remember it. However, there is one lyric in it that I'm just thinking about now, and I'm processing it differently than I have in the past for some reason. Probably because I've went from it to whatever came next, which didn't necessarily connect with it, and so I just kind of focused on the song as a whole. But there's a line in it that says the following. I believe it says, "The life in which you are content is the life of which, or of that I dream." Why this comes up is something I said just a little before that in the chorus. You can't know what's in someone else's heart. What's easy for you might for them be very hard. Even though I know it seems I barely crossed the start, which is actually something else I meant to put in the title of description was only the beginning, folks. I know I've come so far. You may think I have no ambition, but I'm not what I seem. Life in which you are content is a life of which I dream. That's the lie. Sometimes it's hard to be a person. Sometimes it's hard to be alive. But if you got out of bed, then I give you a high five, essentially. Um, and it's interesting because I clicked on a suggestion that the visual was something I was trying not to focus on, kind of for a couple reasons. I couldn't but do it. Ironically, it's a guitar website. Well, it's a guitar. It's a kind of a busking video in the advertisement, which I've never seen them with an advertisement. Tutorials, yes, but and I think she was just part of that. And it also happened to be the guy who didn't like dogs, and I mentioned that in the previous video, early-ish into it. Second one recently mentioned dogs actually, and I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, certain breeds. If you know enough about breeds, you know certain breeds are, but not all small dogs necessarily. And then also, just like people, each is an individual. The other interesting thing I noticed about this one who I follow though is she says my friend a lot, and I don't know if she's pluralizing it. It doesn't hugely matter, but I've often thought that she's not, and that is a way, I suppose, of speaking to each person as an individual. Kind of like how I acknowledge when somebody tuned in, but it's a deeper level. And most people, regardless of if they have a lot of connections or not, but especially if they don't, will probably appreciate. And I'm not trying to you know, for lack of a different word, get into your psyche and you know, uh, necessarily do psychology on you, but I do have a bit of a psychology background. I find it interesting. And what's wrong with a little bit of it, right? But no, I mean, seriously, I think a lot of people, some people will say, why are you calling me buddy or friend? I don't know you. Some people just say buddy, like Ray says it and Ray Brian says it. Two different things. Um, and other people will be like, oh, cool. Now I feel a sense of kinship, which is actually interesting because this shirt, I thought it had that, underneath, right. Um, a bit of a stronger connection, a bond, just like, some of the words, like, although they are overly used and, and it really affects, some of the non-binary population, which almost kept an interesting ways the other day, but bro, dude, mate, all that stuff. But it's to a lot of people, it's also the type of word that makes one kind of think for a moment. Hmm, is this stranger potentially a friend I haven't met yet? I'm not saying, even the nicest, most social, non-judgmental, likes everybody person is not going to be friends with everybody. I remember there's this show I sometimes watch, and I almost watched this particular episode again, but I found it too annoying, and I've seen it about 6 or 7 times at least, probably not much more than that. And I actually briefly connected with the lady, and she has not aged in like 10 or 15 years, and but it's on my profile. I don't really talk with her that much. Uh, or my mom. But and she says, I want to meet them all. The people on this world, I want to meet them all. But it's kind of a not very realistic statement. But virtually does make it easier to make more connections, in some ways. And then, there's in person and stuff too, right? But we're not meant to connect with everybody. We just, we're not meant to necessarily gel with everybody. And it would just be more than any person could handle to connect with everybody. But like I say, in this digital age and in general, there's certainly a lot more of it than there ever has been. Um, uh, Just gonna put that there, put this here, move that. This blanket keeps getting wrapped around the cord, and I'll be right back. The dog is being good. When I get up, he might get up too. I also do not necessarily like leaving. I'll put this in front of the fan. Okay. I want to be able to kind of focus for like 4 or 5 minutes doing what I'm doing. And if somebody tunes in, I'll be like, oh, I got to get down there because there's for sure somebody there. And then not do the comment. I might not wait. I think I am going to open this for a little bit. I'd be very surprised if the dog doesn't react, but he didn't react to me going upstairs, did he? I don't think so, no. He's been sleeping all night. I'm going to open that a little bit, and hopefully I'll be out there soon. Hopefully the video wasn't too noticeable when I was gone, because like I say, YouTube doesn't like that sort of thing. I feel very torn. The morning isn't going by fast. There is my throat, and the other thing is talking. I could see if there was an email option, and hopefully he'd say yes. But most of that's in the description, and that little bit was just about me being briefly gone. 15 mark, it was like 3 minutes. I keep feeling a calling to go outside, and I think it's a couple things. One, and I felt the same the other day, and I was outside some. One, I think it's the reminder that the seasons are just going, the months are going quickly in this particular season or double season, and then it'll be winter, and it's potentially going to be raining. And I guess maybe I do find it a bit stuffy, even though, and I feel like it's nice, it's cool enough that I shouldn't need the AC on. I should give it a rest. So I kind of want to be out there, and it was either in this one or somewhere in the middle of the previous one, and there was somebody there for like a minute or two, where I said why I don't do these outside at this point in time. But so even if I'm not out for very long, I should try and step out for a few minutes, then come back, do my other thing, and I've honestly only got an hour. I only had a couple spoons of peanut butter. Would you guys like to see? Although he's actually being really good without a chew stick. Our dog, the dog right now, because he gets hyper when I do videos. I've been rolling for a few minutes, and there was only one person there, and they're like, "And I'm not a you guys." Okay, Claire. but which might be a Canadian phrase. I'm not sure. Okay, Clark. Yeah, it definitely is. No, just kidding. Um, but like, I do feel like maybe I should eat a bit more before my appointment. I do feel like I want to be outside. So let me just think of how I want to wrap this up. And then it's early, but the appointment's going to be talking, and not only me led, but I'm the one that it would have to initiate the topics because that's kind of the way it's set up. And obviously, I don't have too much trouble doing that, but sometimes too much difficulty. And yeah, I want to have a bit of time beforehand, maybe eat something quickly. Whether I should have more coffee or not, I don't know if it's going to be a gloomy day. But then part of me thinks after my appointment, if I doze off for a bit, hopefully I'd still be able to nap later, or at least rest, you know. But if I'm sleeping, then I'm moving around a little less. Um, but the dog is hearing something, I guess, because the door is open. I'm not hearing it. Um, or am I? Anywho, so yes, I am, and I'm wondering what I'm hearing because it kind of. Yeah. Damn it! My yard's too filled in. I love it, but well, there's nobody here. We're not super far into this video, but take this moment to thank our sponsors and let you know that I'm back. And I don't know how they're old. They may have been in their 20s. Because schools, honestly, when schools are, I mean, a lot of people go to colleges, or they go on vacation, whatever it is, and or they may have been 18, 19. And like on the evenings and weekends, it's in that way a lot more quieter in our area. But there was a guy, although I wouldn't imagine it was very comfortable to wear, but I swear I saw this, was wearing like this top that I don't know if I'd say netting, but it looked like strings. And then there was somebody with like hot pants, I think, and then there was 2 or 3 other people with them. So it was interesting sight. Let's just say that. I know I'm not kidding, but it had me poke my head up for a few minutes. And yeah, maybe it won't be as quiet as I think it is out there. And I'll probably feel pulled to come back in here. And I do. There is something that I do want to do. And I've got about an hour and 5 minutes to do it. If he's on the dot. And he usually is. What is this? Who have I called? Oops, I accidentally called Seneca and rolled it for 8 minutes. And they stayed on the line. I didn't hear them say anything. That's so weird. That's weird. Anywho. So I'm going to work on wrapping this up now. I hope that I do think I kind of touched on the title, even though it's only been 23 minutes. If there's anything that you'd like to ask about it, feel free to put it. Part of me thinks I don't need to read that out because I don't need to worry about getting around to visiting right after at some point, and it's in the description. Yeah, I think that was just about that advertisement. I can't think of what else it was. Loving kindness, optimism, inspiring each other, motivating. Let's do this. And someone says something similar about the right. Yeah, it's just been a podcasty type of day. Now I'm going to slow down at least for a few hours, possibly the rest of the day. I don't be seen by who it's meant to and when, for all the above reasons, and within. Okay. Yes, I think I do need to slow down a little bit though, because I'm starting to. Well, I am feeling a bit of hunger and slightly lightheaded, slightly. So but the things I do for you, our viewers. Just kidding, but no, I have to know my limits as well, right? So, I try again, then I put something as well. So I'm going to wrap up before somebody tunes in and then starts engaging, and then I wouldn't want to pull myself away from that necessarily. So I'll just say I welcome your thoughts on the title, the content, the description, any or all of the above. Kind of obvious, goes without saying, um, but this did say especially motivational, and I don't know if it's been that. So I'll say at least 2 or 3 things. You matter. If you're a good person and you're trying to be a good person in the world, and regardless of if you're struggling or not, you matter. If you know within your heart that you could be a much better person, you can be. You can get there. And then you will matter even more. Um, and I do really want to say this. Nobody's here right now, and even if there was, it might not be that person. So I just want to say quickly that I appreciate, and this may sound weird, but it's a statistic that I don't notice super often unless it's somebody that I'm familiar with on here and that's chatting and stays around for a while. Uh, I don't feel like I see it or notice it very often where somebody stays, and it said it after the video, and I think it's accurate, for like 18 minutes and listened. Um, and I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that what I said was saying was interesting and it held your interest, even though you were shy and didn't comment yet. Uh, Future topics might be about you know why people fear judgments, and why we shouldn't judge too much, and things like that. But I just want, if the person happens to see this and notice it's a bit shorter, or happens to decide to watch it, and to anybody else that does it for that matter, I just want you to know that I pretty much always notice. I'm pretty attentive to that kind of thing, and I appreciate it. A little less so the people that don't stick around very long, like at all, like they're here for like 3 seconds or a few minutes. But again, maybe they intend to come back. So I'm not going to hold it too much against you, unless of course you don't. In which case I will, because you're missing, not to toot my own bugle, but a lot of talent, a lot of powerful insights, healing, and good music, and a laid back, fun, free spirited person. Sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back a little bit. It's called a healthy ego, right? But yeah, I, and I want to do that for you guys, for you, for our viewers here. I want to get to know you more. Like, it already started to get more. It's like, I want to know more about you. Like, we don't have to get like certain details, but get to know your strengths, what you struggle with, and help, and grow together on this platform. We all need it, folks, whether we want to admit it or not. There's a part of us, all of us, that needs that connection, motivation, encouragement, support. I don't care how old you are, for the most part. I don't care what gender you are, or genders. You know, yeah, it's yeah, and I'm hoping eventually that'll really stick and find a great momentum, and be as powerful and impactful as I hope it will be. And you can too. Let's do this together.